Welcome to the AI Hustle Podcast, the podcast where we break down the latest in AI news, tools, and interview experts helping you hustle and do more using AI. If you've been following the podcast for a while, you'll know that over the last 6 months, I've been working on a stealth AI startup. Of the hundreds of projects I've covered, this is the one that I believe has the greatest potential. So today I'm excited to announce AIBox. AIBox is a no-code AI app building platform paired with the App Store for AI that lets you monetize your AI tools. The platform lets you build apps by linking together AI models like ChatGPT, Midjourney, and 11 Labs. Eventually, we'll integrate with software like Gmail, Trello, and Salesforce, so you can use AI to automate every function in your organization. To get notified when we launch and be one of the first to build on the platform, you can join the waitlist at aibox.ai. The link is in the show notes. We are currently raising a seed round of funding. If you're an investor that is focused on disruptive tech, I'd love to tell you more about the platform. You can reach out to me at jaden@aibox.ai. I'll leave that email in the show notes. We all know that ChatGPT is capable of coming up with some pretty complex pieces of content, right? It can write about virtually anything you ask it for, whether it's 100% accurate or not. But the real question that a lot of people are asking is, does ChatGPT have a reasoning capability? Is this thing actually able to think? Can it sit there and compute what it's actually saying, or is it just kind of throwing out words? On the podcast today, we're going to dive into that. We're going to dive into how ChatGPT works and answer this important question. So first off, it's important to know that ChatGPT, the GPT, stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And then breaking that down even further, we're talking about the transformer. A transformer is something that was invented by a group of researchers at Google back in 2017. It's kind of funny that this technology was invented by Google. And the transformer is essentially a model that is able to accurately put out really powerful pieces of content that it's able to write natural language and full sentences. So first, I think if we want to understand how this works, we need to kind of define what we mean by reasoning. So in general, reasoning refers to the ability to use logic and critical thinking when we're analyzing information. And then from that to be able to actually draw conclusions or to, solve problems. So it involves making connections between different pieces of information. So essentially you're identifying patterns and relationships, and then you're using these insights you get to make your decisions that should be informed, right? So reasoning is pretty critical. It's a pretty critical, obviously, aspect of human intelligence, and it's one of the main features that I would say distinguishes humans from animals, for example. So when it comes to ChatGPT, I feel like this question is pretty important because the question of reasoning is its capability is a pretty complex topic. So on the one hand, the model has obviously demonstrated a very impressive ability to generate text. We all see that every day when we put questions in and get outputs. And so that they appear to be reasoned and logical, right? I've asked it to write me an essay or an article, and it would look like it came out with a logically written article going from point A to point B and kind of coming up with arguments why X, Y, and Z is possible. So for example, when asked a question, ChatGPT can often provide a well-reasoned answer that takes into account relevant information and provides a clear explanation of its thinking, right? Like what I was saying. So that's the one side of it. And then on the other side, there's a lot of researchers that have argued that ChatGPT's apparent reasoning ability is largely a result of its statistical processing power rather than true reasoning. So this is kind of getting down to the actual question. And it's kind of interesting because, a while ago in the news, there was this Google researcher testing out Google's chatbot, and he was saying, it's sentient because it was, saying all sorts of things to him. And, using something like ChatGPT, we can kind of start to understand, because back at the time, the technology wasn't actually released to the public, but we can start to understand why he might say it's sentient, right? You can ask it to say anything or act any way, and it can do it. But is it actually sentient? Is it actually reasoning? Those are bigger questions. So to answer them, I'd say ChatGPT is essentially trained on a really vast amount of text data, and it uses, responses that are statistically likely to be accurate. So in other words, it's able to generate text that appears to be reasoned and logical because it's been trained on a large amount of text that has already been, someone wrote the text logically and they were using reason when they did it. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's doing the thinking. It just means that it was trained on, data where someone had to do the thinking. And so now when it replicates that content or that data, it looks like it has been doing the thinking. So I guess to better understand the issue, I would say we could look at a couple examples of ChatGPT's reasoning capabilities. So one area where ChatGPT has been particularly, I would say, impressive is in answering trivia questions, right? This thing was trained on the whole internet, so shouldn't it know answers to all these trivia questions? So if you ask it, what's the capital of France? It's going to tell you Paris, along with some info about the city and history, that kind of stuff, And also, if you ask it, like who invented the telephone, ChatGPT can provide you with a correct answer about that. So in these examples, it might seem like ChatGPT is demonstrating like reasoning ability, but all it's really doing is taking info about a topic, processing that information, and using it to generate a well-reasoned response, pretty much pulling it out of its database of, it already knows the answer, it's getting the information, and it's able to produce that. So I would say, if we're looking at some areas where ChatGPT falls short, let's say we ask ChatGPT, if a train leaves the station A at 10 a.m. and it's traveling 60 miles an hour, and a train leaves station B at 11 p.m. is traveling 7 miles an hour, right? Like those like mind bend, and it's like, what time do the two trains meet? It's like a classical math problem that just essentially requires some logical thinking to solve. ChatGPT is likely to struggle pretty hard with this question, and a lot of people have, shared screenshots about like, why is ChatGPT so bad at math, even some basic stuff? And it's because it has not specifically been trained on math solving problems. And so while it might be able to generate a response that contains some relevant information, might talk about the distance or the speed of the two trains, it's pretty unlikely to be able to actually reason through the problem in a way that a human would do. So I would say all in all, ChatGPT looks pretty impressive. It does not have reasoning capabilities. It is not actually thinking about, how to solve different problems or things you're saying. It's essentially just kind of giving you back information it's already been trained on. And that's not to say that in the future people aren't going to, integrate complex math solving problem models into this or other models into this that help do that. I think when we're looking at Bing GPT, or Bing's chatbot that's coming out soon, mixing ChatGPT, and I think we're going to see maybe a little bit more of a hybrid between, I wouldn't even call it reasoning, but it's able to do a couple more complex things. It's able to search the internet live and do some things like that. I think we'll start moving in a direction of these tools actually doing computational like reasoning, thinking about things, but at the moment it does not do it. And anyone that says that, ChatGPT is, I would say, is probably misguided at this point. If you are looking for an innovative and creative community of people using ChatGPT, you need to join our ChatGPT creators community. I'll drop a link in the description to this podcast. We'd love to see you there, where we share tips and tricks of what is working in ChatGPT. It's a lot easier than a podcast, as you can see screenshots, you can share and comment on things that are currently working. So if this sounds interesting to you, check out the link in the comment. We'd love to have you in the community. Thanks for tuning in to the AI Hustle podcast. If you could do us a massive favor, we would really, really appreciate it if you could leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. This helps people find the podcast. It helps people know this is a good place to go. And we would really, really appreciate it, as it helps us continue to bring on incredible guests and share incredible content for you to listen to.